Judge Dredd is one of the clearest examples of what can happen to a film when a single person is given complete and unrestricted power over a project. And of course, we are talking about Sylvester Stallone. At the height of his fame, he signed on to play the lead role. Alongside Kevin Costner, Sly was one of the biggest fans of telling everyone around him how movies should be made. And if someone did not listen to his advice, things usually ended very badly for that person. Judge Dredd became the last film in Stallone's career where the studio allowed him to do absolutely anything he wanted. This is Frameback, where movies get a second look. The original script for Judge Dredd was intended to be a very dark movie about the future. People who read the script compared it to Blade Runner. In the early stages, Arnold Schwarzenegger was supposed to star in the film. The director was Peter Hewitt, who got the job after the success of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. But Schwarzenegger was extremely busy at the time, and the Dredd script was not a priority for him. He was filming Last Action Hero, and after that he wanted to work with James Cameron again on True Lies. When it became clear that Arnold would not be in the movie, Peter Hewitt left the project. It was at that moment that director Danny Cannon signed on. Hollywood studios noticed Cannon after his small film, The Young Americans, with Harvey Keitel and Viggo Mortensen. Two offers arrived on his desk at the same time. One was from 20th Century Fox, which wanted him to direct Die Hard with a Vengeance. At that time, John McTiernan, who eventually directed the film, had turned down the job, and the studio was considering young directors who could bring something fresh to the franchise. The second script was Judge Dredd. According to Cannon, he chose Dredd almost immediately. Die Hard 3 was going to be a big studio blockbuster with heavy oversight, which meant a young director would have been extremely restricted. Judge Dredd was different. Far after Schwarzenegger left, the budget was expected to be around $50 million. A lot of money, but far from the $100 million of Die Hard. Cannon believed there would be much less pressure from above, and perhaps that would have been the case. But then Sylvester Stallone appeared. In those years, Sly constantly tried to grab projects that Schwarzenegger was interested in. Sometimes this competition produced films like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot in the 90s. There was a rumor that Stallone snatched this role away from Schwarzenegger. Later, Stallone admitted that after filming Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, he found out Schwarzenegger had intentionally spread rumors about wanting the role in order to trick Stallone into chasing the script. Stallone now says that the movie is the worst film of his career. Once Stallone joined Judge Dredd, the budget doubled, and the difference between Dredd and Die Hard 3 disappeared completely. Stallone immediately began rewriting the script. Anything he considered stupid was cut or rewritten. Sylvester Stallone is famous for his obsessive desire to control every aspect of the films he appears in. The term one-man band describes him perfectly. Thanks to his star status, studios usually allowed him to do whatever he wanted. Stallone was the one who added the character that Rob Schneider eventually played. Originally, he wanted Joe Pesci for the role, but Pesci refused after reading the script. So Stallone remembered the strange little guy he had worked with on Demolition Man, and Schneider accepted immediately. When filming began, everything got worse. Stallone continued rewriting scenes on the fly, even though he had already rewritten the script before. By his own admission, he had never read the Judge Dredd comic and had no intention of doing so. He had no idea what was important for the character and what was not. Everything changed. The dark and serious tone of the original script disappeared. Danny Cannon constantly fought with Stallone on set and begged the studio to fire him. But because of contractual obligations and Directors Guild rules, the studio refused. In later interviews, Cannon blamed Stallone for every problem the film had. He claimed that Stallone turned what could have been a mix of Ben-Hur and Blade Runner into a silly comedic action movie. And here Cannon was not far from the truth. Stallone repeatedly said in interviews that he believed the original idea of the film was doomed from the start. So he intentionally filled the script with comedy. He was also the one who insisted on removing the helmet from the main character. Critics and fans never forgave him for this decision. But from Stallone's perspective, it made sense. Why cast Stallone as the lead if his face would be hidden the entire movie? And honestly, it is doubtful that Schwarzenegger would have worn the helmet the whole time either. Stallone also replaced composer David Arnold with Alan Silvestri. Arnold had agreed with Cannon's darker vision for the film and wanted to write a much more serious score. Stallone did not want that. The only element Danny Cannon claims survived Stallone's interference was the Hammerstein robot. Cannon insisted it be built with hydraulics using a suit similar to RoboCop. Stallone approved this idea. When filming ended and the rough cut was sent to the studio, the inevitable happened. The test screenings went very badly. Judge Dredd was sent back for reshoots. Danny Cannon was removed from the process. According to rumors, Stallone himself oversaw the reshoots. Cannon had a huge fight with the studio and was banned from the final edit. His career suffered greatly from the whole situation. After directing a small film called Phoenix, he disappeared from the cinema for almost 10 years and moved to television. He returned to the big screen in 2005 with the film Goal. After that film failed, Cannon never worked on a major movie again. He once promised never to work with big stars after Judge Dredd. Whether he ever had the chance is another question. The reshoots without Cannon did not fix anything. Test screenings were still mediocre. The studio had no choice and ordered Stallone to remove the R rating and bring the film down to PG-13. No matter what Harry Karamidas, Alex Mackey, and Sylvester Stallone tried, they could not produce a PG-13 version. The only cut that the MPA was willing to approve was described by those who saw it as an incoherent mess with no story. The film was eventually released with an R rating. Many analysts believe the R rating was the reason for the film's poor performance at the box office. Judge Dredd earned $113 million on a $90 million budget. The film lost Disney nearly $100 million. If not for the moderate success of The Rock, which the studio released right after Dredd, Hollywood Pictures would have been shut down even earlier. Instead, the label was closed a few years later after a string of flops like Deep Rising, an Alan Smithee film, Burn Hollywood Burn, Mystery Alaska, and My Favorite Martian. It is widely believed that Judge Dredd ended Sylvester Stallone's run as a box office superstar. The flop Assassins, which came right after Dredd, only confirmed the direction his career was heading. That was Frameback. See you on the next Rewind.